Over the past fortnight, Checkpoint's begun a series on climate change, the costs, the consequences, and our preparedness to respond. Tonight, if you live in an area that may be affected by climate change, and there are plenty of them, we have a warning for you. We're returning to the Bay of Plenty, where a precedent may be about to be set for how councils and the governments can deal with you. Councils and the government can deal with you. Around 20 homeowners in Matata face being forced out of their homes unless they take a voluntary retreat. Payout offer, voluntary. The residents say the payout offers are insulting and they'll fight to the bitter end. Zach Fleming and our cameraman Bradley White report from Matata.
We've had 12 years of this shit.
What's happened to the do unto others as you'd have done unto yourself? Because this is despicable what is going on here.
It's wrong what they're doing to us.
I used to have a lot of respect for our local council. Now I have no respect for our local council.
It's council versus community on Clem Elliott Drive in Matata.
As far as I'm concerned, the whole lot should be put up against a wall and shot with a ball of their own shit.
The problem boils down is that in 2005, a period of heavy rain brought a massive debris flow down the hill at the entrance to Matata. And when we're talking debris, we're talking boulders the size of cars. And that debris flow damaged houses, but the council 12 years ago decided the risk of it happening again was low and let residents rebuild. Now though, they've changed their mind and say the risk is actually high, and they're asking all those people who rebuilt their lives and rebuilt their houses to leave. But the residents aren't buying it. They say the risk isn't high and they're not leaving.
We just want to be left alone and get on with our lives. We're not asking for much. We don't want anything from the council.
Greg Fahey might not want anything from the Whakatane District Council, but the council wants him and all of his neighbours to leave. There is undoubtedly a risk a debris flow like 2005 could happen again, but Jared Stuckey doesn't believe the risk is as high as the council makes it out to be.
When I went to get insurance 12 months ago, they at the insurance company said I was, well, #1 red zone, which has since been, it's bullshit, but that's fine. They can call it #1 red zone. Other insurance companies haven't worried about insuring it.
So your house is insured?
It is fully insured.
Tawai Thatcher moved to Matata from the Gold Coast in June 2015. She says she was told, and the LIM report said, low risk.
And then about August, they told us, we got some mail and said there's going to be a voluntary retreat. And
so
okay,
June 2015 they said low risk, and then 2 months later knock on the door, hey TY, can you please get out?
Yeah, I think we got mail rather than a knock on the door, and voluntary retreat. Like, well, what does this mean? So
they told you that in a letter. They didn't even knock on your door.
No, they didn't knock on my door. No, they didn't knock on my door. It was just in the mail.
The letter said the council would buy their homes, but the offer was what the homes are worth now that they're considered dangerous.
Where can we go? Because the house prices have gone up. That what we put into this would only be a deposit now, and then we'll be going back to a big mortgage again.
If this house was sitting anywhere other than Clem Elliott Street in Matata, it's an $900,000 home on the beach.
But sitting in Clem Elliott Street in Matata, how much is it worth now?
Well, they've got a value on it of $280,000. So, I mean, as I said to you last week, that's ludicrous. It's insane. Where do they get the valuations from?
Grant Wilkins, he says the offer's unfair because nobody would even be there if the Whakatane District Council nearly a decade ago hadn't given the all clear to rebuild. But Mayor Tony Bond says council has no legal obligation to compensate for value lost, so it won't.
We are trying to be as fair as possible in the voluntary retreat package, and I think that is incorrect to say that they are being offered half of their value. I actually think that we're doing the fairest possible system. We had no legal obligation. We could just walk away and say, change of plan, everybody's got to go, hard luck. We're not like that. We do feel for the people.
So issue 1, the residents think the buyout offers are too low. Issue 2, the voluntary involuntary retreat. Whenever it's used in Clem Elliott Drive, it's in quotes and followed by an eye roll.
Any correspondence with council, Whakatane, there's always been, whether it be through letter or conversation, this threat of existing use rights being taken off us via this plan they're doing with regional council.
Is that a direct threat or an implied threat?
it's well worded on their part, so I suggest you could take it either way, depending on how you want to read it.
So that gives them plausible deniability, but you, as far as you're concerned, it's a threat.
I would definitely deem it as being a threat, yeah. So, I mean, at the end of the day, Zach, if people want to stay here, they should have the right to stay here. They should be able to get on with their lives and be left alone.
And it seems Grant was right all along. Mayor Tony Bond says last week Council passed a resolution to head forward with a land use rights change.
That will mean that once it goes through, there'll be submissions called, and the submissions will be in front of independent direct commissioners.
And that could or will result in the changing of land use rights?
More than likely it will result in a change.
And we're going to be used as guinea pigs for the rest of the coastal people in New Zealand to kick them off the land with the global warming and all this sort of stuff. This is not just about the people in Matata.
The rest of New Zealand need to start waking up, because when they start going around different parts of the coast and saying it's a cheaper option to kick you out, once that law goes through, that's it. And I think it should be rejected, and they should be told to piss off.
Whether or not that'll actually happen, it could. Mayor Bond acknowledges Matata will set a precedent.
This is going to be a precedent for New Zealand, and I didn't want our council to be the first one off the block. We've got climate change happening throughout, and you just have to go around New Zealand and you've got some big problems. And with climate change, yes, there are going to be places in New Zealand which are going to be in the same situation, unfortunately, in the future.
So if you're in a home at risk of coastal inundation or landslides or whatever, what's happening in Matata could affect you. And you really don't have to go far to find people that might be affected, which is issue 3. 30 kilometres away in Ohope, dozens of homes are at high risk of landslides, but residents there are, for now at least, being allowed to stay put. On Clem Elliott Drive, Tawai Thatcher and others see that as a double standard.
I feel as though we've been picked on, and I really don't think it's because of the mitigation risk, because I think Ohope West End is more of a risk because they're on the top of the list.
Mayor Bond sees it differently.
The experts are saying they can mitigate, and I'm not an engineer, whereas we're getting expertise from expert engineers. And yes, they can be challenged. They can be challenged by other engineers, but you've got to take, in the end, you've got to take professional advice. And that's what the advice is. They can mitigate in those areas, and we cannot mitigate in Matata.
The Bay of Plenty Regional Council says it's been expecting an application from the Whakatane District Council for a plan change for some time, and it's ready to expedite planning decisions to give certainty to the Matata community as quickly as possible. On Clem Elliott Drive, though, there's already certainty.
I'm not going anywhere.
They're considering legal action. For Checkpoint, Zach Fleming.